Okay, good morning everyone. This is Bhupesh here, and what we're going to do is get started on talking about ActiveReports Server, built-in scalability, scheduling, and more. We're just going to wait maybe a minute or two here while some other people join in, and then we'll get started. So as we start off here, let's look at what we're going to cover today. What we're going to be talking about is ActiveReports Server. This is the new optional add-on available with ActiveReports. We're going to talk a bit about what it is, where it fits into the whole architecture of ActiveReports, and how you would use it. What are the benefits in it for me? And then we're going to look at a few methods and use cases, and a couple of sample use cases with the use of a day in the life of concept, right? So we're going to do about maybe 3 separate demos and 3 separate use cases here before we get to the Q&A, right? For the Q&A, there is a questions panel on your control panel. Go ahead and start writing questions whenever you have them, and we will look at them time to time during the session. Okay, somebody is saying that we're not able to hear. Can anybody confirm? Is it only this one person, Mr. Smith, or can everybody not hear me? Before we move on to get further deeper into this conversation. Okay, thank you guys. Thanks for confirming. Mr. A.G. Smith, I guess try and increase the volume on your speakers, or you could try and re-log in. We are recording this, so that would be something that you can also hear, listen to if you miss anything. Okay, so let's get started. We were talking about questions, so now you guys know how to use the question panel. That's good. Good exercise here. So I just added this slide in here kind of to remind us why ActiveReports and who Grape City is and everything. A lot of us are already users of ActiveReports, so I won't spend too much time in here. Just saying that we have been in the market space for over 20 years, and ActiveReports has been used by customers across the world across those 2 decades. Right? So, and as we get deeper into this, I want to first understand, we had a few questions up during the description where we were talking about what is it that you want to achieve and how ActiveReports Server can help you. So what I want to do is I want to start a poll here and see which is the need of the hour for our audience today. So is it that you're looking to migrate from WinForms to the web platform? Are you looking at making your product available as a SaaS offering? Are you looking for adding multi-tenant related deployments? Is it more about automated distribution of reports, or is it more about centralized execution and performance? So what is it for you guys that really you're looking for, and your key reason, let's say, for joining this session and learning about ActiveReports Server? Okay, so we'll wait for a few more seconds here as votes come in. Okay, so half of the audience has already voted, so let's go ahead and close the poll. Well, we got 3/4 of the audience there. And we can see today, as opposed to yesterday's session, we have more people looking for centralized storage and execution management, scalability, I'm assuming here, and load balancing. And then obviously the web platform is a big one, as well as automated distribution and scheduling. So we'll cover those in quite a bit of detail during this session. So let me go ahead and hide these results, and let's move forward with our presentation. So as I talk about ActiveReports Server, let me first start about talking about where does it fit into the architecture, right? Let me grab a pen here. Okay, so in a traditional architecture, what you have is your desktop users, and the ActiveReports engine is essentially running in a WinForms application on the thick client, and it is accessing the database directly, right? Now, in case of a web-based deployment, and if you're using a web viewer, you have an app server over here somewhere which manages your business logic as well as your ActiveReports execution process. Now, that in itself is something that you would code for, you would write your own code, and you would need to manage it. So what ActiveReports Server does is it brings that, if you have a web deployment, it brings that web server and the ActiveReports part of it as a separate server environment in itself, something which is focused towards running reports. It is tuned to what the requirements of a report execution action and life cycle is. On your report viewer side, you still have only your web viewer. So everything is available through an HTML5 Report Portal or direct access to reports. Now we'll see that in a short while during the demo. And if you have tablet users, you have them available with the HTML5 viewer as well in a responsive viewer environment. Now how the system works here then is your report viewers ask for a report. The server now has agents. And these are the servers, these are the boxes that really do the heavy lifting. Right? These are the ones that do the execution as well as talk to the database, as you can see, and get the data, do the data aggregations, rendering and everything, and send it back to the server. So what the server acts as is basically a load balancer, as well as the ability to have these managed agents. You could just add another one here and scale up your deployment in a simple plug-and-play environment. Now, my drawing isn't that good, I know, right? But it's what it is. I mean, I'm drawing with a mouse here. But essentially what we want to say here, and we'll talk about this in the next slide as well, we have distributed execution, right? So you have your managed agents doing the execution across their own machines, which may be separate, or they may be installed along with the server. That enables a load balancing and scalability, and it has a distributed document storage. Now, the server offers a lot of functionality like auditing, version history, scheduling, and we'll see a lot of these extensible security and everything that can actually help. What we're going to see today is look at the portal. We're going to look at it from Safari, but obviously it can go with any desktop browser. We're not going to look at the mobile devices today. That may be something we do for another session. And we're going to look at, from a report author's perspective, we're looking at developers as well as business analysts as use cases. Right? And we're going to touch a bit on the admin dashboard to kind of show you how things are and where things are from an administrative standpoint. Right? But before we get on to actually seeing the stuff, let's talk about what are the advantages of all this. Right? What the benefits that we expect you guys to get from a typical ActiveReports deployment and adding ActiveReports Server is the ability to publish reports without any coding, right? You don't have to compile reports. You don't have to do any sort of compilation of your project or wait for a release cycle or anything. You can just click to publish the reports, and we're going to see this in a while. It has built-in extensible security, so you can actually plug this into your environment, to your security and authorization environment, and authenticate the users that way. and kind of tie it in and integrate it with the API as well as the extensible security. We have scheduling on the server side, which is managed as well, and we'll see what we mean by managed scheduling in a short while. Load balancing and scalability we've talked about already, and the HTML5 portal we'll see, which enables you to actually bring the deployment and your reports to a responsive HTML5 website, and allows your users to now start using your reports on the web, on any browser, as well as on their mobile devices on any of their browsers. Right, and we're going to see that in a sec here. Now, before I get started on the demo part, let's go ahead and start another poll here and figure out what is it, which version of ActiveReports are you guys using, right? And that'll help me address questions and also kind of talk to the audience based on the versions that are there, right? Okay, so well, we have quite a few people here who don't use ActiveReports at the moment. Now, for those people who don't use ActiveReports, well, some of this stuff may sound unfamiliar, which is okay. And if it is unfamiliar, go ahead and ask me questions. I'll be happy to answer them during the session or after the session. And I won't spend too much time here because the majority does already know ActiveReports, but I will try to answer those questions and make it relevant to these guys who are new to ActiveReports as well. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our first demo. And I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. Ephraim. I hope I got that right. Yes, we can share the slides after the session, so you will have access to the slides as well as the recording. We'll send that out to you. Okay, so let's start with the first use case, and what we're going to be looking at is migrating from a typical ActiveReports WinForm application. The way that we're going to look at it is I have a sample application, WinForms application, just focusing on reporting here. And we're going to see how we can take those reports out of there, put them into the ActiveReports server, and what we need to do on the admin side, and then have a look at the admin side there as well. So let's go here onto my machine. Okay, wonderful. So this is my simple reports module. Now that simple reports module means that I just have reports here. I don't have any other things. This is essentially just a WinForms viewer control, and I have my reports, whether it's monthly sales reports, right? So I just choose the report and I see it, right? Oh, that wasn't there. That was supposed to be here. Mailing labels, right? I think I messed up some of the code there, right? Chose the wrong report for the wrong item. How's that? Okay, so for example, your order history. So all of these reports, you can, you know that we can design them, and this is something that you would create very typically. You have the interaction and everything. And I'm not going to go too much into this sample, right? So, but this is what you would have. You would have reports. You would have them in categories or folders. You'll have multiple reports. You'll have multiple categories, subcategories, and all that sort of thing. So we're going to see this setup as well, and how to do that on the server side. Right, let's go ahead and close this application and open up in Visual Studio here. And I have my reports open here. Here's my invoice report. And here's, just for the people who are new to ActiveReports, here's my form. There's my menu strip, and here's my viewer control, which is available right here from ActiveReports 9, viewer, drag and drop, just simple Visual Studio stuff, right? So what I'm going to do here is, if I have a report, I have my reports all in one folder over here. Now, if you have compiled reports, obviously those are going to be different. You would have CS files, and you can load those up onto the server as well. What we're going to be looking at really is We're going to load up two reports. We're going to load up the monthly sales report. I have done a few of the reports already up there. That's why monthly sales report got overwritten. That's why it's doing this. So we're not going to load the monthly sales report up. We're going to go ahead and do the top performers. I think that's the one that I wanted to that we don't have up there, but we'll see which ones we have and which ones we don't. Right? So let's go ahead and look at my reports, and I say save layout to server. So what these are originally, earlier you guys are used to seeing save layout and load layout. Those are from local web file, from the local file system. In this case, we have added save layout to server and load layout from server. So when we do save layout to server, you basically enter the server details, you connect, your connection status is there, and we can go up one level. Let's go up all the way to the top, and these are all the categories that are available on the server to me as the admin. Now this is the performers, so let's go in here and put that in others, because we had it in others, remember, and go ahead and call it top performing artists, right? And save. That's all we have to do, right? This is now a report on the server. All we really need to do next is give it permissions, and it's ready for the user to use. Now, in this whole steps, I have not written any piece of code, nothing to do with building or publishing any of the projects. I'm just moving a report up to the server, and the server will manage everything else, right? So let's go up to the server and see this report on our admin dashboard. Now this is my admin dashboard. I'm going to go to my reports page here, right? Look at my modified reports, and I'm going to see that report up here, right? Top performing artist. That's the one that I made today, right? Let me go ahead and look at permissions, right? So what my permissions does is gives me a role-based output of all the roles that I have configured on the server that can give a specific role, a specific permission set, right? I can say that Team Alpha has full permissions, and I can go in again and change if I want to, and say, well, everyone can have read permissions, right? And demo users can also have read permissions, and so on and so forth. Now, the way that it works is, when it comes to users, users are members of roles, and roles are the ones that are assigned permissions to models, categories, schedules, and so on and so forth, right? Let's look at categories here. These are the categories that we have. We can easily add a category or remove a category and work with the category structure to kind of create that menu structure that we want the user to use, right? For the reports, I forgot to add that report to a category. Let's go ahead and do that now. There's my report. Let's put that into the category here. That was supposed to go into others. Oh, well, it understood that I wanted to put into others. Oh, you know what? I actually saved it into the others. That's why. I did it directly from Visual Studio when I did save layout to server, right? So I saved it directly into the others category, so I didn't need to assign that. My bad. Okay, so if I wanted to change this, I want to say make this bold. Let's go ahead and make my headings bold here. Table headings bold. Simple bold stuff, simple editing over here. You can do expressions or whatever changes that you want to do. And then you go ahead and say save layout to server, and you save the layout, right? Let's say added bold. Now what this is going to do is actually going to save the version, the new version on top of the old one. So you'll have a version history. So now if I go ahead and say load layout from server, I can actually see there's 2 revisions. I can open an earlier revision, right? And I can see the first one didn't have bold, and I added the bold in the second one, right? But I'm not going to go ahead and change anything. I want the bolds there. They look nice, right? And that's pretty much it that I have to do from a Visual Studio perspective. From a developer's perspective, to publish reports. They're ready to go. Like I said, nothing to do with compiling the project or making making changes to or waiting for a release process or build servers and everything. All that is history. All I need to do is publish the reports as files to the server. I will remind you, so keep on asking me questions if you have any, right? It'll just make it much easier for me to go through them as I talked to you guys, as well as we go and look at the other pieces. Okay, so my second, now before I get on to my second set of demos, and in that demo really look at the user side of things from a day in the life of a regular user, and also a day in the life of a business analyst, kind of modifying reports through the Enduser Designer. I want to figure out how many of us know about the Enduser Designer. So let's go ahead and see how many of us use professional, standard, or you already have the ActiveReports Server and you use that. Okay, so we either, majority of us either use professional or, okay, no, good, that's okay. Some of us already have server, that's interesting. That'd be interesting to know. Okay, so let's go ahead and close the poll here and share the results. Now people, again, people who don't have ActiveReports, the Enduser Designer is a WinForms standalone designer that you can integrate and customize with the ActiveReports within your WinForms application or a standalone application to build reports. Professional people who have professional have this capability and functionality. The Enduser Designer doesn't come with the standard, so if this is something that you would like to use, you would be looking to upgrade to the professional edition. Right? For the people who have server, you would either need to get the professional edition to use this functionality that we're going to be talking about next. Right? So I just had a very quick overview of the Enduser Designer. We can go through it in a bit more detail later. But how do you use it with the ActiveReports Server? The Enduser Designer mimics what the Visual Studio Designer does. Right? So exactly like the Visual Studio Designer, the Enduser Designer is also a report designer. It's just standalone. It doesn't have anything, and it doesn't need Visual Studio to run. It runs within its own self, and you can customize it. You can customize what data sets are used, what data sources are used, what permissions you want to give your users and everything, what controls you want to give your user. Today what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open a report from the server, right? So this is the same thing, same dialogues that we saw in Visual Studio. We're going to open this report and we're going to say, let's look at our mailing labels. Right? See, I can see all the revisions here. Right? I removed the bold. I want to add the bold again. So let me go ahead and open that third revision. Right, that was the one that I added. I removed the bold on the city and region. I'm going to add that bold again here. And I'm just using bold here just because it's the easiest change to show and easiest to visually see as well. I can actually change the color of the text as well. Let me do that. Let me make that red. That's going to be very easy to see. Right? Now I go ahead and say save to server. Now you can see here on the toolbar, my icons really are doing the default of saving to a file and opening from a file. I can change these so that they open and save from the server only. So when I'm integrating Enduser Designer to the server, added, I can actually make it use only the server rather than give the option to the user to be able to save files on their own system as well. So I've just added the comment, added bold and red, and we're going to just add another revision. And I'm going to show you the revisions there as well. So if I were going to go and create a new report, for example, let me do that as well. Let me add a new RDL report. Right, and what we're going to just do is take a text box here and say, this is a new RDL, oh, not EDL, RDL report. Wonderful. Make it a bit bigger, obviously, so that it fits, and let's make it bold. I like bold, right? And then I save, right? So again, I'm saving to the server. My connection properties are already saved. I'm going to save it under, I'm not going to save it under customers, I'm going to save it under others, and I'm going to say this is demo RDL from EUD, right? And we'll upload that. And that's also gone there. Now this is a typical scenario what your business user would do. They would work with reports on the server for the different customers that you have, whether it's SaaS-based or a web-based platform. So you can do work for your users, or you can give this off to your power users to do and work with the reports that they have access to. Right? So that's what this designer would be used for if you had the server. Right? So let's go back to our presentation here, right? And let's look at our next demo. So the next demo that we're going to do is actually see this whole thing in action, right? So what will it look like for the end user when they're running reports, when they're scheduling reports, then when they're working with reports in general? One of the questions here is when the parameters are being used. Right, so we'll see a couple of reports with parameters as well. Whether they're publishing, modifying reports from the designer, how would you do that, and where would be the integration points that you would use? Right, so but before we do that, I did forget one step in the previous one. This report that we just created, we have to give it permissions. So let's go ahead and give it permissions. And then we'll move on to the report portal immediately. A day in the life of an end user. How exciting. Right? Permissions. Permissions here. There we go. Team Alpha. Team Alpha. There it is. We'll give it full permissions. And we won't give permissions to anybody else. This is only for Team Alpha. Right? Let's go back to our dashboard. And let's move on to our end user machine. So this guy is using Safari. He likes Safari. I like Safari as well. User 1, I have the password saved. And I log in. Now this is an HTML5 site, so it has everything. It is responsive. Right now I'm using a full screen view of Safari, so you kind of can't see the responsiveness. But essentially it is a responsive environment. Now on the left-hand side here, I will see my categories. I have a few favorites that I can use, or I can add them, right? So I can just star those, and they're going to be on my favorite list. So as an end user, the first thing that I do is, if I have a frequent report that I always run, I go to my favorites, and I can just see it. The other thing that you'll notice here, I can actually go ahead. Let me go ahead and open up multiple reports. Now this is something that you would typically not, if you wanted to do, you would open multiple windows or dialogues in your WinForms application. In this, what you're doing is the server is doing all that for you. It's taking care of running 4 reports at the same time. If you have multiple users doing that, they're running in the background asynchronously. There's that report. This is a new RDL report. Right? The other one's still running. That didn't have any data, so obviously that was easier to render. right? The other reports are still running, and I guess my database is a bit slow today, so they're taking their time to get the data, right? While that's happening, right, let me go ahead and look at, oops. Okay, so while that happens, let's go ahead and look at our the other reports. One of the reports that somebody asked for was to see the parameters, right? So let's see which one has parameters. I think district report was one which required parameters, so we'll run that as well. So let's run that in the background, and let's talk about more about what these properties are all about, right? So these windows over here, these give us all the properties and everything else about the report. Properties like modify, create by, and it also has caching. We'll touch upon caching a bit later. Let's look at another property for this report. You'll see permissions are visible here, but they weren't visible in the other one. Why so? Because I gave full permission to this report for Team Alpha. So as full permissions, I have further the ability to collaborate and share this report off with other users as well. So I can give everyone read permissions or read and modify. And for this one where everyone already had read permissions, I can say, well, everyone has full permissions. So everybody can share with everybody, right? But that's pretty much the sharing side. I can go ahead and change the description here. I can change the title, which I don't want to right now. And let's talk about caching. So what caching does is essentially, in this case, it will store a cached version of the report, not only the data, but the rendered data for the user, keeping in mind the user context and the parameters that you've used for 1 hour on the server. So what that means is for 1 hour when this report is run over and over again by multiple users across the same context, it will not go to the server, to the database to get the data. It will just get it from the server. So it saves your time, saves time for database interaction and data aggregation and rendering. You can just get the rendered report right out there, and it really makes things go a whole lot faster, right? The next tab here that we have is scheduled tasks, and scheduled tasks are basically subscriptions that you would, as an end user, you would subscribe to. So you can say, well, I want a daily report. I want this to come to me as a PDF document, as an email. Now I have other options available, but this PDF is good enough, right? As an email, and I'll enter my email address here. Now you can see I can change my subject and body, but I'll leave it the same. I have the ability to use placeholders here for execution time, report name, and that sort of stuff. And I'll say I want it as an attachment, not just as a link, right? And those are the modified by and create by to kind of say who is the owner of this schedule. Now if I want to specify parameters, I can go ahead and specify parameters here as well, right, for that specific run. So I can say, well, give me the top 5 for each, right, number of best-selling and number of worst-selling, 5 and 5 each, right, and for this task, and then add another one which has 10 and 10, right, and I can change this, and I can say top 5 and bottom 5, right, that's what my schedule is, right. So this is my top 5 and bottom 5 schedule. I can create another one which goes out daily or weekly, which is a top 10. Right? The history will store all the jobs that have run. So every time the schedule runs, a history is created for that schedule run. So you can actually look at older snapshots and take them from there. Right? Revisions allow you to see older versions. Right, so this is the original version. I can go ahead and preview this version, right, and we'll see the different previews And this is the one that we previewed in the very beginning when I had these all run at the same time. So if I had multiple versions here, I could just preview the ones that I wanted to see, right? And the categories, basically, I can add and assign categories through this tab here as well, right? So let's look at some of these reports here. Now, what I'm not seeing is my parameter panel here. So this is my report, which is essentially just, it's just giving me my general report. It's not giving me my viewer, so my viewer is somewhat hidden over here. I still do have the same interactivity that I am used to with other viewers. The viewer seems to be hidden, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a different browser here. Aha, here's the parameter. This is the district report where we can choose the parameters, and these parameters are going to be available on the left-hand side as the panel, and we're going to look at that in more detail. It's just that this Safari today doesn't want to show me the header over here, right? But if I had different parameters, I can just change them over here and view the report. Yeah, now you'll notice the URL changes as well. So the URL has a report ID and it has a report action that you wanted to preview, and you can pass in parameters through the URL also. So you can actually have a report that open directly from a URL. You don't need to go through the report portal. You can have direct links going into your system, into your web application, and going directly to the server as well. Right? So we'll close these. Let's go ahead and move to our Chrome environment here and look at the report portal from here. Right? Okay. Let's do that. Let's go in here. Let's say new incognito window. I don't want username stuff. Right, localhost. Oh, localhost. Yeah, we're just on the localhost. So this server has that installed, ActiveReports Server installed on it. So we'll just use localhost. And here we have. Okay, so we were using performing artist. Let's open that. Now see, we have that header here, which was being hidden. Right, district report. Let's open that. We had customer mailing lists. Let's open that. What else did we have? Sales operation, customer order statement. Let's open that as well. Right? So you notice this went much faster than previously because, again, it's cached. It didn't have to go to the database. Right? This one, Portland, let it process, let it validate, and then it will let me hit view report. Right? So that report came out much faster than the previous time, again, because it is cached with that parameter. Right? And here's my other report, pagination, save as. All those are standard stuff with the HTML5 viewer. Essentially, this is the HTML5 viewer inside it. And if I wanted that panel to come up for parameters, this one doesn't have parameters, but others do. So this one had some defaults. I have parameters here. I can change those. I can say 10 and 10 and say view report, and it'll give me top 10 and 10 of each. Right? There it goes, running the report. Okay. So while that runs, we've covered pretty much everything here. Right. Let me just look at my notes here to make sure that I have covered everything. Yes, we have. So let's go ahead and go to our presentation here and look at the takeaways. So from today's session, what we've done is we've kind of gone through a very quick overview of the server, what opportunities it brings to a typical ActiveReports developer and a typical project where ActiveReports is being used for the reporting tool. We've also looked at the fact that we keep the same powerful report designers from ActiveReports and the same powerful engine which is tuned towards performance. And we've looked at further optimizing the performance with built-in scalability and load balancing with the managed agents. Now, one of the questions that we have here is about licensing. You do not have user cals in ActiveReports Server. So the server is licensed on a per server basis. There are no additional royalty or cal fees. And we'll get to a more specific answer about that question that Hugo has in a short while when we do the Q&A side. Right? The bottom line is this brings a centralized report execution where you can manage all that reporting without needing to maintain the code which runs those reports. And it's easy enough to take those reports that you already have and just move them into ActiveReports Server and get started. Right. So let's go to our last poll here. Right. And we're going to talk about what next. What do you want to hear from us next in our subsequent sessions? Right? Do you want us to focus a bit more on the report designer from Visual Studio, the EUD, or do you want a more detailed session on ad hoc reporting with the web-based report designer, or we're looking to just how-to topics? And if you choose how-to topics, I would request you to also enter those how-to topics in the post-session survey, so that we can actually know what topics are interesting for you guys. And if there's something completely different, let us know that as well. Right? So let's spend a couple of more seconds here so that most of you guys can give us your votes and your thoughts. Okay. Okay. So we're going to close that poll here. We're going to share the results here. A lot of us want ad hoc reporting with the web-based report designer, and which is a good thing. Why is it a good thing? I'll let you know right now. The good thing is our next webinar, which you can get over here, is going to be talking about ad hoc reporting in ActiveReports Server with the web-based report designer. Right? These are just a few links here for us to follow through and look at next steps. We will have a 5-question post-session survey. What that is basically our way to get feedback from you guys about the session, about what you want to do next. So we're there to help you through the next steps. Whether it's a trial, whether it's upgrades, whatever it is, we're there to help you for those. And updated email addresses if you haven't looked at us in the recent past. Right? So talking about that next webinar that we're having, we're going to be looking at self-service reporting reinvented with ActiveReports Server. So this is going to be looking at the web-based report designer, who is suited for we're going to do a quick recap of what is ActiveReports Server as well, because not everybody there would have gone through this session today, right? And kind of what data models are all about and how to add intelligence there, right? So I will be enabling this, and it will be available on the same similar time on the 12th at 3 p.m. and the 13th of August at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And this will be available on the website, as well as we'll be sending you links to this as soon as we have the recording. And when we share the recording and the slides, right, I will be sharing this, the links to this webinar as well. Sorry, I just got distracted with some of the questions that came in, because that's what's next. Okay, so let's Hugo, you don't need to worry about your mic. You can go ahead and enter questions on the question panel, and I will read through them. I'll read out the question, and I'll answer it as well. So you don't need to worry about making sure the mic you have a mic or not. Okay, so we have about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. So let's get started here. Right, so Hugo, you had asked about that independent software vendor perspective. Would you be required to have a license for each of your customers? It depends on how you're deploying. If you are deploying in a SaaS environment where you have the server, there's only one server which is catering to multiple clients, which is the most common environment that our customers work with, then you just need the license for the one production server, right? You do not need licenses for each of your customer, like it's like a user cal. You don't need a customer cal. You just need a server license, and that's it, right? Okay, so Sonia, you've asked that, you've said that you missed some of the presentation, which is okay. We will be recording this, or we are recording this, so it's definitely something that we will be sharing. Now, in this session, we did not cover ActiveReports setup, right? We did not install ActiveReports. But I think one of the underlying question that you want to ask here is, what are the minimum requirements and where do you are able to set this up? Essentially, you need a Windows Server OS and IIS, right? Those are the only two things that you need, and obviously .NET 4 or above with ActiveReports 9 server. And that should get you everything that the server requires to run and deploy. For managed agents, they can be servers or any machine which has WCF and Windows services, right? Because the managed agent is essentially a service that gets installed and managed by the server itself, right? Okay, we talked a bit about how report parameters are handled for the server and scheduled reports. We saw that. Paul, if there's any follow-up questions, let us know there. Okay, so there's one question here from Ricardo about data sources. Let me read this through. May I have one centralized report and different data sources based on user? Yes, you may, and that's a typical scenario for multi-tenancy. We are going to be covering multi-tenancy in a lot more detail in the webinar. Currently, we're planning it for September. We'll see how things go, and we'll have dates for that published on our website. But multi-tenancy is fully supported by the server, and you can change the data source based on the logged-in user using the security providers and other extensibility that we have in the server. Okay, how easy would it be for my developers to have my software print using the old method for some customers and through a server for my larger customers? Okay, so this is an interesting question. I'm not sure I understand exactly all of what you're asking, right? So when you're saying for your old method for some customers, so what you're saying is you want your existing software to have reports for some of your customers and use a server for printing for other customers. Now, for printing, the actual printing process is done by the client, right? The execution process is done by the server. And yes, what you can do is you can have different viewers for your different customers. It's essentially your access to the server, whether you want a user to go and authenticate to the server or not. That is something that you would be able to define and control within your own web application or Windows application, right? And a follow-up on that multi-tenancy question is that it is a hybrid environment, and yes, you can use a hybrid environment as well. So you can have one data source for multiple customers and another data source for another set of customers, and within the same data source have row-level security to define the shared rows or filter out the rows based on the user which is logged in and the access that they have. Right? There's another question related to the earlier licensing question. This one is about managed agents. And managed agents do not require a separate license. They are licensed along with the server, so you don't need to purchase anything else if you want to scale up or add more power to your execution process. One way to add power for managed agents is add more RAM and add more processing power, CPU and cores, to your managed agents so that they can run multiple reports at the same time. They're faster in that sense. And then you can obviously extend and add more agents to your deployment if that is easier for you as well. Okay, so that pretty much wraps us up. If there are any other questions, please let us know. I think I got all of them here. Right, I'm going to wait a couple of seconds here and see if I have gotten all of the questions. If there are any other questions, please go ahead and type them in now. And if we have missed out questions, or if you think of questions later, that's okay. You can always contact us, respond to the email that we send you with the recording with your questions, and we'll respond to that as soon as we get your emails. Right, so it's a nice beginning to a nice day, at least here in Pittsburgh. It is sunny today, but that's all we have for today. Thank you for waiting for us and going through the session with us, and I look forward to hearing from all of you guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.